Morning. Just going to show you part 2 of this studio exhibition, recognising Palestine, and the group show of contributing artists. We were somewhere here last time, and the work behind here I thought was interesting. It's from an artist who goes by the name of the neurological condition known as Phil. And it's a pen drawing, and it's untitled. I thought there was quite a bit of gravity to the work. I can't quite articulate it. I think it's a successful unconscious symbol. It related for me in terms of the arrangement with the colours, and it sort of frames the helmet quite well. So yes, I've taken liberties with other people's works with sort of making a arrangement, but that's what one does in this situation. Yeah, I know Phil's backstory quite well, and this is brave of him to call it an artwork and frame it. A lot of non-artists don't understand that. Actually, I think we're all artists, aren't we? Just some of us are brave enough to imagine ourselves as being significant and worthwhile. This is a local emerging artist's work. It's called Digging Through the Rubble, Looking for Family. It's cotton, acrylic and soot, and it's John Cox, who works with Hilary Radner at RDS Gallery in Dunedin. John made this specially, actually, and I'm really thankful for him for doing so. I think it's quite a disturbing, and I think John's restraint in materials, and and it goes really quite nicely with Tandi's work. Tandi is a South African painter who comes and goes from Aramoana area sometimes. It lives in a beach batch, and this one is called Blood River. So Blood River was about wars in Africa, and I thought it had a monk-like quality. Monk. Tandi is reading a poem about that too, and that's on the video TV screen. This odd work, this tall sort of sculptural piece here, is just hanging from the club and whatnot. It's a collage construction work of mine from several years ago. It was in Witch's Song exhibition at PG Gallery in Christchurch. they'd lost it out the back, as they did with most of my work, and it got sent back when they rejected me recently. But yeah, no, it's sort of a Kiwi voodoo underclass work, and there's sort of a sick hail going on there too. Funnily enough, the subject of the work is exactly what PG Gallery were about, which is sort of a facade of dress circle etiquette and art semantics, about class and privilege and gender. It's not really about art so much as what the other girls think. Because New Zealand's a bitch country. At least the art sector is. The rest is owned by Chinese men that the bitches sold to them. This is Trauma and Healing, Ghosts of Things to Come by Felix Harris. Felix has a head injury and paints in the outsider canon. I also have Felix on interview as well when I received this, and it was lovely to hear him speak about it. Yeah, this is an arresting work. I think it's actually a really good one of Felix's. He's got $2,200 on it. The orange and blue are quite striking. But yeah, trauma, healing and trauma, ghosts of things to come. What are the ghosts of things to come, Felix? Perhaps a disenfranchised population getting predated upon by the upper middle class who still maintain some kind of privilege in the structure. The lies we tell ourselves about New Zealand and the way it used to be and what we think it is now. This is another significant artist in the show. A peer of mine, someone whose work is very interesting and uncompromising. He's explored the gender realm quite a lot, and I've always enjoyed his kind of neo-shamanic Pacifica take on the anthropological moment of our civilization, which includes eugenics. In my opinion, that's what's going on en masse. Yeah, these are called monkey hell. It's a pretty fluid metaphor, isn't it? I kind of disagree. I mean, although this is an element, I think we probably spend more time on our mum's tit than we do screaming at each other. But of course you'd have to have a mother for that. Of course, and then, let's talk about love, shall we, and how safe that is. More of a kind of device of entrainment in terms of social pecking order, isn't it? Getting controlled. Yeah, Rowan Wellens works here. These are $1,500 each. They're framed professionally. And I'm really grateful that Rowan sent these down. I've shown in his studio gallery when it was operational in New Plymouth. I think he's a very talented man. Next is an older Philip Trustram on the left. This is a trade work that Philip kindly swapped with me for a framed work on paper many years ago. And it's a blunderbuss with a magazine of bullets. In a kind of abstract Pacifica style. A flintlock. And this rough wee work is called Pixel Splash. It's by a former art tutor of mine called Peter Cleverley. He lives in Kakanui. He's recently had a show at RDS Gallery with the Jew woman. I think it's interesting. It's sort of like my danglies, using materiality. It's still posing as a painting in its fancy dress frame here, but it's brute, it's ugly, it probably hurts, and it's kind of atomized matter, isn't it? Sort of in an arrangement that kind of is reminiscent of his recent series of flowers, star flowers, but this one seems more like a hand grenade blowing up. And of course the pixel splash is also the propaganda mess of this international conflict that we're talking about. Those are just some readings I've thought about in this work. Yeah, it's a bold wee work. I don't mind it. It's interesting to see Peter deconstruct his painting recently, where a lot of his softer illustrative illusions around faith and niceness, he's getting a bit tougher maybe in his own way. Other works in the show are these three little lino cuts by an old friend of mine from Christchurch called Scott Jackson. And Scott kindly sent these down at very short notice, and he's titled them Live, Laugh and Love, which is about all you can do, I suppose, if you're a refugee in Gaza or a cancelled male artist in New Zealand. Classic iconography, really. You can't argue with it. This work is by a local artist called Pav Pavlovich, normally a carver. He did this in 1973. 5 Hiroshimas equals 1 Gaza. He's stuck a little Palestine stamp on it. See, it does exist. See, Palestine existed, New Zealand. There's a stamp from the past. Very kind of 70s metal cover vibe here. Good on you, Pav. You're not wrong. A lot of those fascist cultists do have nuclear weapons in Israel. And Pav also offered his gas mask collection to the show. which is just a portent of spooky around all the nice ways the rich think to kill the poor. Really. I don't think poor people might have a bit of a fisticuffs, but they're not going to have nationwide war or use mustard gas on each other, are they? Two works here that I'm looking at. This little work here is by a German woman who lives in a lifestyle farm in Motueka. Between Motueka and Golden Bay, she travels. She's the partner of another artist in the show, and I thought this little work that she sent, unrelated to the Palestine show, should be with her partner's work on the wall, but when it had a sense of grief about it. There's a sort of scratchy, abstract. So, art's people that have real lives make art, and they don't necessarily show it publicly. They may give it away to friends and colleagues. Barbara's an artist. She journeys with her work. It's a psychological imprint, and that's why I respect art and artists, regardless of whether I like the work or can read it or understand it. I especially respect people that are working inside their own heart and psyche with their art, rather than a kind of academic design ideologue of a cultural approval. This work is called One Ocean, and it's cured kelp, and it's by J.M. Loughley, and she's got and I thought that was quite an interesting sort of little altar amongst some of the other political and war sentiments around her. I think basically the metaphor here is that we're all held by the same ocean, which is another way of saying, the divinity of life is connecting all of us. And I like that as a notion. I think that natural, holistic, yin-based kind of philosophy is important. These works are James Dignan's 5 war pictures, and we've talked about them on one of the podcasts recently, on one of the interviews. So these are the ruling families of our Western construct doing their business at our expense through the centuries. Oh my God, I can't forget this work. Because it's not linear on the wall, it's easier to overlook, but it's not overlookable. Like the Loughley work there, it's a 3D work using elements, using nature. It's Mary McFarlane. Mary's made a mihrab. A mihrab is a devotional niche. She's constructed a stylized altar, or I would argue pelvic girdle, hip bone kind of vibe. A devotional niche made of these Aramoana concretions, which she's cemented together. And it's on an oil drum. which, when you think about Gaza and the concrete and the oil in the region, a concretion on an oil drum is very interesting work. She's done well. She did well with a broken wrist. She's had wrist surgery lately too, so yeah. Thank you very much, Mary. It's a good counterpoint to a lot of the paintings. I was speaking before about Barbara's partner. This is Barbara's partner. Rob Knowles is a friend of mine. Musician, farmer, father, partner, artist. Rob used to work on oil wells as a sort of a designer for glorified pipe systems back before computers did everything. He was a draftsman for plumbing. Don't say that word, freedom. So Rob's using collage, and he kindly showed me a selection of work that sort of mirrored the themes in the show, and he's not wrong. In fact, the pig there could be reminiscent of the goyim, the Jewish word goyim, which means human animal, being farmed in an economic system by the owners. These two works I'm quite fond of. They're by a friend of mine and artist, musician, Simon McLaren. I first knew Simon in his early band in Christchurch called Love's Ugly Children, and Simon later went on to form a band called The Subliminals, and then more recently Psychic Maps. Simon's also a barber and a father. This is called Second Piece, which is a sort of it's a colloquialised take on the peace process in Gaza. A woman saying, "The fuck did you just say to me?" As in, we don't believe you, mate. You're still gonna keep killing our babies and kids. Doesn't matter what you say. Got Nathan Thompson's drone painting here. And I Swear I Don't Have a Gun. It's after a Kurt Cobain song. The Kurt Cobain, the meme of Generation X, self-destruction. Great musician, but burnout anti-hero. We can't have another Vietnam population, can we? We can't have another Generation X resistance to the industrial, military, cultural rape machine. That's my Generation X, yeah. And, the previous generation had Jimi Hendrix and other people drowning in their puke. Also, burnout anti-heroes, part of a kind of cultural project of disenfranchising any sort of working class, middle class power. There's nothing like dead martyrs to distract you from the way you're getting fucked by corporate government. There is one thing I didn't show you. It's relatively minor. It is Felix Harris's lovely little Rumi quotes. If light is in your heart, you will find your way home. The wound is where the light enters you. Well, these things are pretty tough statements, really, if you think about the place of being annihilated. One would have to think about how true those things are or not. Usually a shift in perspective around what's true and what's not is required, meaning possibly a more spiritual and metaphysical overview of the human condition and where we actually are, what this place actually is, the world or culture. I can't quite tell. Obviously a manifestation of collective consciousness, and regardless of how endorsed art is or liked, this is the consciousness of some people. I think that we are capable of much higher consciousness than our society would allow us to have. I think we are being actively poisoned and entrapped in ceaseless, petty power games. And really what it all is about psychic sovereignty and spiritual growth that could lead to a broader understanding of love, even, and life. Those are my idealistic thoughts. Thanks for looking.